Hello, it's Craig here, with a breakdown for Energy Firearm Specialization weapons in Armored Core 6. The reason why I am isolating weapons in this category is because these weapons can be buffed by the Energy Firearm Specialization stat on your generators that I just covered. It is worth isolating your weapon options to see how you can capitalize on this stat. First, many apologies. I forgot to mention the reduced charge time in my generator video, even though it's right there in the description, so I had to write it in my pinned comments instead. I really feel bad about forgetting to post it, even though I have the numbers. Anyways, a quick reminder. Each point of Energy Firearm Specialization increases or decreases your damage by 0.5% and your charge speed by 1%. With the base damage and charge speed at 100 specialization. To give an example, your energy weapons will do 25% more damage with 150 specialization. As for the charge time reduction, with 150 specialization, you will only need half the original charge time. However, if your specialization stat is below 100, your charge time actually increases. Taking a look at the top 5 energy specialization generators, these are what we have. Since we cannot increase or decrease this stat elsewhere, we might as well convert them into more meaningful numbers. As talked about in my generator video, the VE20B gives your energy weapons a huge boost. But because of its low energy output, most energy builds are likely going to be built around the VE20C. Which still offers a significant damage boost and charge time reduction. For the sake of the video, I will be using the VP20C, mostly to give you guys a good baseline for energy weapons in general, as you can still run them outside pure energy builds. I will also be swapping over to the VE series here and there, but I believe seeing the baseline and then thinking about the bonus you're going to be getting with whichever generator you're choosing is going to be better. Let's take a quick glance at the stats of the weapons and what they do. There is something important I want to talk about in this section, so I'll make the simple stats brief. Attack is the damage dealt before defense reduction. Impact and accumulated impact is how much damage you're doing to the enemy's attitude stability bar. Impact is mostly for right before you stagger the enemy, as impact quickly decays to accumulated impact. So accumulated impact is often what gets stacked, but impact can make the final push much quicker. Attack heat buildup is how much heat each shot costs. All energy weapons have 1000 total heat buildup available before the overheat. These are the charged versions of the stats above for the charged attacks. Direct hit adjustment is a multiplier for when the enemy's stability bar is red. 140 here would be 1.4 times. Recoil is a stat that makes your weapon more inaccurate the more you fire it. It also depends on your arm piece's recoil control and your fire rate. I highly suggest directly testing the recoil for the weapons you're running with different arm pieces. From my testing, energy weapons in general don't really have an issue with this stat. Ideal range is the range that bullets are guaranteed to not ricochet. It tells you the range you want to stay in, but even then, it's not really an ideal range for many of the weapons. Effective range is fairly worthless in my opinion, as it will be very rare you're ever going to be firing or hitting any moving target at the range this is listed at. And even then, defenses are likely to make you do no damage whatsoever if the weapon has an ideal range. Rapid fire is really just your firing rate. 1.7 here means 1.7 shots per second. Next, the charge energy load is a very important stat for energy weapons and is fairly often overlooked. When you are charging your weapon for a charged attack, this energy load replaces the energy load on the bottom. This means that your energy supply efficiency that I discussed extensively in my generator video is indeed lowered. This makes planning for spare energy output even more important on energy builds. Next, the charge time and charge ammo consumption should really be located on top with the charge stats in my opinion. so you will see me rearrange my spreadsheet into a manner that I believe makes it easier to group the relevant information. For example, I moved the charged energy load next to energy load for better cost planning. You can also see here that the pulse weapons don't have a charged attack. Cooling is the other elusive stat. The higher the cooling value is, the faster your weapon cooling is. Unfortunately, after many trials, the formula is not that simple. I will have to deep dive into this mechanic some other time after gathering more data points to try and find a better equation. So be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss it. I am going to ignore ammunition cost because I am only discussing combat performance. And the weight and energy load are just your typical costs. Let's start with the pulse weapons, the 2 on your arms and the 1 on your back. This is because pulse weapons are the only weapons affected by Firearm Specialization that doesn't have a charged attack. Instead, the pulse weapons have a stat called PA interference, which is a weapon's ability to break down pulse armor or shields. The most likely source of usefulness for PvP is going to be pulse armor or even the pulse protection extensions. PA interference also works on the left back shields, but I have very rarely seen anyone run these. Pulse weapons actually do quite a bit of raw damage though. If we compare it to a laser rifle, for example, you can see that before hitting its cooling period, pulse weapons have a higher DPS. They are also very light, certainly the lightest energy weapons. The big difference between the HI-16 and the HI-18 is the HI-16's more shotgun-like nature. However, I do think that pulse weapons miss a ton at semi-long ranges, so I don't recommend using these at their effective range. Another big difference is their cooling. For having to stick closer to your target and overheating faster due to having more heat buildup when you factor in the fire rate, the shotgun type pulse gun has over double the cooling speed of the regular type. Let's also compare these pulse weapons to what I think are closely their kinetic counterparts due to the similarities of their fire speed and recoil. These are post-patch 1.02 numbers, by the way. You can see clearly, especially from the weapons with the same fire rates of 10 and 20, without even doing the hard math, that pulse guns will do more damage per second without factoring the reload, due to the 2 types of guns having a different reload method. However, they lose out on a ton of impact and accumulated impact. Taking a specific look at the HI-18 versus the Ludlow, you can see that the pulse gun has 62% more attack, but the Ludlow has 59% more accumulated impact. If your target is a regular mob, the pulse gun is favored since you can clear them faster because you don't need to stagger anyway. The cooling system also makes sure you don't need to reload. However, against bosses, the Ludlow comes out on top because you can actually better stagger bosses with the help of the Ludlow, to then punish the boss with a heavy hitting attack like the famous stun needle launcher with 225 direct hit adjustment, which easily makes up for doing less damage than the pulse gun. Talking about direct hit adjustment, the kinetic machine guns also have a higher direct hit adjustment, and their energy load isn't nearly as high. So if you can't really make use of the PA interference stat, honestly, pulse weapons aren't that great of a choice for boss fights and PvP. This also applies to the pulse cannon on your back. The only good thing about this weapon is its low weight. It has an even higher heat buildup and weaker cooling than the pulse guns, making this back weapon not very ideal for damage compared to other back weapons. And its impact, like other pulse weapons, is quite low. But this is not to say that pulse weapons are useless though. As I said, they excel at doing upfront damage very quickly, and we're looking at its stat at base without using any of the VE generators. We can buff its upfront damage even more, making it super good at clearing trash mobs. In stages without bosses, you will be surprised at how either of the pulse guns can tear through enemies, easily earning you a S rating. For maps where you need more range, I suggest you to use the rifle-type pulse gun. For maps where you need to fight more than one elite, I suggest using the shotgun type for faster cooling. Supplement yourself with something good at hitting larger targets like the songbirds, and you've got a great lightweight AC for PvE. Next, let's talk about the two laser shotguns. While the two shotguns have the same exact ideal range, I will have to tell you that this is not really the case. Here are the tests for the two shotguns at 50 meters, 100 meters, and 150 meters. The Werger's bullet spread already makes you miss the majority of your attacks on AC-sized targets at 100 meters range, so you're not going to get nearly what is stated on in its stat sheet. I understand that the ideal range is supposed to be the range without ricochet, but what's the point if it really isn't ideal to fire at this range? Also, in case you think the AC training dummy is too small, it really is AC-sized like you. Instead, the best use of the Werger is its charged attack, which has 100 meters range. While this attack is short, it is very fast. It's like you're punching the air with your fist, and certainly packs a punch. On the other hand, while the VP66LS is costlier than the Werger, I think it's well worth it. Thanks to its very concentrated bullet spread, you still get the majority of your damage at 150 meters. Furthermore, its charge attack is also quite good. It turns your attack into a long-range projectile with a blast radius, and it doesn't even use up the full 1000 heat. It only takes 650. This makes the VP66LS much better at uncharged attacks, and also having a flexible utility with its charged attack. But you're definitely going to be comparing these guns to their kinetic counterparts because of how infamous the Zimmermans are. Even though these guns weigh more and have higher recoil, I do think the kinetic versions do come out on top in terms of burst, especially the Zimmerman's extra ridiculous 840 impact. The energy shotguns do have higher impact with their charge shots, but it requires preparation and isn't as easy to land. Despite this, I do think that the energy shotguns are quite good in their own respect. For one, the kinetic shotguns cannot rapid fire nearly as quickly versus the VP66LS. The Werger's charge attack is also more devastating at close range if you can use it well. Next, I'm going to talk about the laser handgun and the laser rifles together, as we are going to be comparing them. Comparing uncharged attacks, the laser handgun has 47% faster fire rate than the VP66LR, while costing less weight and energy load. The 46% higher damage of the rifle offsets this DPS difference. However, since they have similar impact stats, with a much faster fire rate, you'll actually be getting more impact damage on your handgun. I believe the primary use of the laser handgun is using its faster fire rate to poke at enemies to make sure the stability bar can't fully rest and decay. As aforementioned, it is also cheaper in terms of cost. As for its charge attack, I personally don't think its charge attack is that great, because the 6 bullets don't all fire off at the same time. It is relatively slow and easy to dodge. I prefer just rapid firing it. As for the rifles, let's compare them to each other to see what's good. Between the smaller 66LR and the larger 66RA, you definitely see the cost and speed trade-off versus the raw damage. Factoring in the fire rates for accumulated impact and attack, this is what we get. We're skipping the impact portion because it decays relatively quickly, so multiplying impact by fire rate tends to skew results. Impact is meant to be skewed towards doing more impact in a single shot to proc that stagger. We do see that the medium-sized laser does more damage and accumulated impact. However, this comes at quite the cost. First, one of the biggest weaknesses of the RA is its low ammo pool. Because of this, you see that the smaller laser actually does more total damage than the medium-sized one if you burn through your ammo. But 90 ammo is still quite a bit to spend, if not for the fact that their charge attacks are fairly integral to their kits, and also uses thrice as much ammo. Let's compare their charge attacks. Both weapons have charge attacks that don't fully use their 1000 heat. A trick to managing your energy when this is the case is firing off a few uncharged attacks, and then charging your weapon up for a charged attack. While doing so, the cooling of your weapon kicks in, and you won't overload the heat. After firing the charged attack, your weapon automatically goes into a cooling period, which will allow you to do more uncharged attacks after. Do keep in mind that having higher energy specialization means you charge quicker though, so there would be more heat buildup since the time frame of your attack is decreased. So get used to your uncharged and charged rotation, and when to manually cool off. As for the charged attacks themselves, the difference isn't huge. The higher damage and impact numbers for the medium-sized rifle must also be factored with its much longer charge time. Personally, because the medium-sized rifle only offers a slight bit of damage and impact advantage for a higher cost with a greatly reduced total ammo, I prefer the smaller energy rifle for almost everything, especially because I'd rather have more shots to do consistent damage and making it harder for the enemy to dodge. Losing a tad bit of DPS is more than worth it for the trade-off. As for the large-sized laser rifle, the 66 LRB, let's do the same thing we did versus the small rifle. Now, looking at the numbers, these are higher than the medium-sized ones. Furthermore, the large-sized rifle actually has more ammo than the medium-sized one too, which actually leads to more total damage with uncharged attacks. The medium rifle really got the short end of the stick here. And while the large-sized rifle uses 1,000 heat buildup, its charged attack is no joke, clocking in at nearly double the light rifle's damage. And you're not reading this wrong. It only has 2.3 seconds of charge time, as opposed to the medium's 2.8 seconds, alongside 5 more points of direct hit adjustment. While the 5 points in direct hit adjustment doesn't make a huge difference on its own, the raw damage of its charged heavy attack certainly makes this weapon a better punish tool for staggered enemies. Therefore, despite its heftier cost, the large-sized rifle has successfully distinguished itself by offering something more than the light rifle. It's just a bigger and better jump than the medium rifle that miraculously has a longer charge time and less ammo. Next, let's take a look at the plasma rifles. To begin, a big difference between the plasma rifles and laser rifles is their bullet speed. It is very evident that laser rifles have a much faster bullet speed than plasma rifles. Both of the plasma rifles' bullet speed makes it difficult to hit any moving target at medium to long ranges. Furthermore, plasma weapons have low direct hit adjustment. I'm talking about across the board low. As an example, the plasma missiles have the lowest direct hit adjustment among missiles. Of course, this is not without any benefits. Plasma weapons have relatively high damage, impact, and accumulated impact. Furthermore, they also come with a blast radius. Granted, the uncharged version is quite small. Let's talk about the difference between the 760 PR and the Nebula. From what I've seen, the Nebula is the more popular pick, not without a reason too. If you do factor in the fire rate, Nebula comes out slightly on top, at the cost of quite a bit of ammo. But the best way to use the Nebula is actually its charged attack. The Nebula has an incredible charged attack that does more than 3.6 times the normal shot's damage, 5.8 times the normal shot's impact, and 4.64 times the normal shot's accumulated impact for only 3 times the ammo cost. You don't even use up the full 1000 heat, and the larger radius makes it easier to land when enemies move. On the other hand, the 760 PR's charge shot is split into 3 spheres, so despite each sphere having a smaller radius, you're actually covering a larger area. The downside is, even if your target is in the middle of all 3 spheres, they're still only taking 1 sphere worth of damage. So overall, there is reason why the Nebula is popular, and I definitely recommend using it with its charge shot. The 760 PR can still be worth it using uncharged attacks if you're looking for more total damage with your ammo. Finally, the very famous Karasawa rifle, known as the KRSV in AC6, is the only multi-energy rifle. Now, FromSoft didn't label it as multi-energy just for fun, as it has attributes of both the laser and the plasma rifles. In fact, its bullet travel speed is right in between the two, faster than the plasma and slower than the laser. This absolute behemoth of a weapon is the heaviest arm weapon in game, and also has the second highest energy load for arm weapons. It is so heavy that many arms can barely afford to hold it. Furthermore, it also has a very big jump for charged energy load, so make sure to keep this in mind when you're building your AC. Unfortunately for the KRSV, it has inherited the plasma rifle's low direct hit adjustment, and also has very low ammo count for how fast it burns through ammo. Furthermore, its fully charged heavy attack requires 4.5 seconds of charging, and also costs 10 ammo. Very costly. The Karasawa also has a half fully charged attack that costs 4 ammo that always does the same damage before you fully charge it. This attack charges very quickly and is great for a mix-up. But with all its downsides, the KRSV's performance is indeed powerful. If we ignore cost for a second and compare the KRSV's charge attack to the laser rifles, you can see the full power of the Karasawa's charge attack. The most glaring difference is their impact damage. In fact, the KRSV's impact damage is so high, you're just going to be one hit staggering most ACs you fight. Even compared to the Nebula, which already has a powerful charge attack, the KRSV comes out on top. As for its uncharged attacks, the Karasawa is no slouch either. With its much faster fire rate, you're actually going to be seeing more DPS than the large laser, and even the Nebula. It's an incredibly fast-firing, powerful weapon. Granted, there is one last thing to talk about. The KRSV has quite the poor cooling. Finally, I'm going to mention this just so I don't get some random comment about the KRSV's effective range. Yes, it is very long. But really, are you shooting at 600 meters? Overall, a costly but powerful weapon. Finally, let's finish the energy firearms with the back weapons, 3 of which are laser and 1 plasma. Let's start by comparing the laser cannon and the triple laser cannon. The stats shown on screen shows the total damage of the 3 hits combined. They perform just about what you would expect, more damage for more cost. There is one thing to remember though. The triple laser cannon uses 3 ammo per shot, and it only has 24 ammo. Therefore, it can only fire 8 uncharged shots or 4 charged ones. Even in PvP, where ammo doesn't matter as much, you're very likely to run out of ammo if you're not kamikazeing into the enemy AC. Also, it has a very long charge time. Furthermore, while it has double the damage of the regular laser cannon, its impact damage does not reflect nearly as well. In fact, if you factor in their heat buildup, fire rate, and cooling, the laser cannon comes out on top. Still, there are definitely use cases for the ridiculously high raw damage of the triple laser. Next, the diffuse laser cannon is basically a laser shotgun. You lose quite a bit of damage even at 100 meters, as the laser cannon will do more damage at this point. So even though its ideal range is 180, I suggest trying to stay as close as possible for the uncharged hit. The cool part about the diffuse laser cannon though is its charge attack, which turns the shotgun into a long-range laser shot that even has a blast radius. The damage and charge time are fairly comparable really, so this can be a good flexible option that can perform better than a normal laser cannon when using the right shots at the right distance. Finally, the laser cannon versus the plasma cannon is sort of akin to the laser rifles versus the plasma rifles. You are without a doubt ahead on damage, impact, and accumulated impact with the plasma cannon, particularly the accumulated impact. But like the plasma rifle, its projectile is slower, making it not too ideal at medium to long ranges. Yes, you do lose out on fire rate and a bit of charge time. You also have a lower direct hit adjustment like other plasma weapons, but the projectile speed is still the biggest issue. Thankfully, there is something special about the plasma cannon. Not only are you getting more damage, impact, and blast radius for charging up the plasma cannon, you also get a faster projectile speed. Yep, your projectile speed basically turns into that of a laser when you charge up the plasma cannon. Instead of getting absurd damage multipliers like the Nebula, the plasma cannon has its additional benefits loaded into its faster projectile, making it better suited than any other plasma weapons at longer ranges. Alright, it's time for a summary. The pulse weapons are the only weapons in the energy firearm category without a charged attack. They are made to tear down enemy shielding. Like many other energy weapons, their damage is higher, while their impact and their accumulated impact are lower than kinetic and explosive weapons. Combined with their lightweight, this allows pulse weapons to quickly tear through trash mobs. But they're generally not too great against bosses and PvP, where comboing into a stagger tends to perform better. The energy shotguns are quite different from each other. I suggest using only the Wurger for its short but powerful charge attack, which has a 100-meter range because its uncharged attack has an even shorter range against AC-sized targets. The VP66LS has a very concentrated bullet spread for a shotgun, allowing it to be used at even 150 meters, beating even the Zimmermans in this aspect. It is a great and flexible shotgun that has a charge attack which transforms the shotgun into a laser projectile, ideal for even longer ranges. The laser handgun is best used for its cheap cost with uncharged attacks. For the laser rifles, I've explained in detail why I believe the smaller laser rifle is just overall the better option than the medium-sized one. The laser rifle is great for continuously putting forth damage with a mix of uncharged and charged shots to not overload your heat. If you want a bigger boost in damage to the smaller laser rifle, I suggest the large one instead of the medium one, as it somehow overcame the medium rifle's weaknesses while providing a truly more heavy-duty weaponry over the light laser rifle. Plasma rifles have higher damage and impact, while also having a blast radius at the cost of slower projectile speed. The main use of the 760 PR plasma rifle is its damage and ammo efficiency with its uncharged attack. However, when ammo isn't that big of a deal, the Nebula definitely comes out on top, especially with its extremely powerful charged attack that boosts its uncharged attack's damage and impact more than the additional ammo spent. The KRSV, otherwise known as the Karasawa, is an extremely costly, one-of-a-kind, multi-energy weaponry. However, despite its ridiculous cost, it has incredible uncharged and charged attacks. Remember, it has 2 charge stages, and even the non-fully charged one is useful. You can spam its uncharged attacks faster than any other laser weapon can, while its fully charged attack is the most devastating of all. For the non-pulse back weapons, we have 3 lasers and 1 plasma. The laser cannon is an excellent and steady baseline that can continuously rain damage on your enemies with its uncharged attacks. I don't find its charge attack to be that worth it. The triple laser cannon burns through its ammo extremely quickly in exchange for truly absurd levels of burst damage. It is also the heaviest and most energy-hungry back weapon. The diffuse laser cannon only does more damage than the regular laser cannon at close ranges roughly under 80 meters, but its charge attack turns the shotgun into a long-range laser with a blast radius. Flexible but tricky to use well. And finally, the plasma cannon deals more damage and impact damage at the cost of its slower bullet speed. The unique part of the plasma cannon is that its charge attack turns its projectile into laser speed, essentially solving the biggest downside of plasma weapons versus laser weapons. Like and subscribe. If you want to support my work, please consider buying my fantasy novel or donating to my Patreon down below. With a book purchase, you can also request a topic from me. Krite, signing out.